These are the best moments from the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. From funny moments to crazy conspiracy theories to heated arguments, these are the best moments. Beginning with the funniest moments from the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. Podcast clip featuring Theo Von, where Theo Von explains how bees are dying.
Bees are
amazing.
Well, you know, bees are dying too.
Yeah.
Bees are dying from the heat.
Is it the heat?
Yep, they're evaporating, they ejaculate, and their whole body blows up.
Is that real?
Bring it up, Jamie.
Next, we have a clip where Joey Diaz goes on a rant about coffee.
Everybody wants to fucking be cool and drink that fucking coffee.
Have you ever had someone look at your cup and go, what is that, fucking coffee bean? What, you can't afford Starbucks, bro?
Yo, step up to the Starbucks.
But why would you wait
Dunkin' Donuts, bro?
Why would you wait on that line when 7-Eleven got the same fucking coffee?
No, it doesn't.
No,
It's that same, listen, that Brazilian bowl will keep you up for 3 days. That's what ISIS drinks. Don't tell me my fucking business. We think ISIS drinks fucking take coffee? Fuck you. They drink fucking Brazil. You ever drink Brazilian bowl from fucking Dunkin' Donuts? Fuck you. Fuck you.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Fuck everybody. Fuck all you dumb motherfuckers that pay $8. Look at me. Antibiotics and anti-fungus. Go to Dunkin' Donuts and get that Brazilian fucking bowl. Then come back and see me. That's liquid fucking meth.
Next, we have probably one of the funniest podcast moments where Eddie Bravo joins Alex Jones and Joe Rogan.
Hey, listen, in high school, we used to choke each other out. That's like a DMT. Go ahead and choke me out. On air.
No. Please don't.
That would be
hilarious.
Please don't.
I'm not scared. Let's do it.
No. Eddie, don't.
Do it.
Please
Let's do
don't
it.
choke him unconscious.
Do it now.
Please
I'm not afraid.
don't.
Let's go.
He can't do it.
You know, you think I'm afraid of this? Let's do
No,
it.
I definitely don't think you're afraid of this, which is why I don't want him to do it.
You know
He was
what? Let's
telling
not be pussies. Choke me out.
Have a
You
seat.
better choke me out.
Alex, please. Please have a
No,
seat.
we used to do it in high school.
I know you did. You told me. You grab each other and you fall down and hit your heads.
It only takes like 20 seconds. 7th grade during lunch, some of the kids would choke each other out. You put your hands up on their neck. Kids don't do this. I'm not teaching like Tide Pods.
Don't do this,
You can
kids.
die doing this. But then it'd be like the cheerleaders wanted to be choked out. And then they would choke us out. I probably did it about 300
Where
times.
did you go to school?
The first time I got choked out was like this 17-year-old super hot chick, and I was like 13.
Tied up.
And she lived down the street. No. And she goes, I'll have sex with you. This is a true story. I'll have sex with you if you let me put makeup on you. So I'm not into gay stuff or anything. So the girl puts the makeup on me and I have sex with her, and she's super hot. And then like a week later, she goes, now I'm going to choke you out. And that relationship went really well until her like 30-year-old boyfriend caught me at her place once because her mom was always working.
Oh my
and
God.
tried to kill me in the parking lot.
Oh my God.
Next, we have Joe Rogan. On this next podcast clip, Joe Rogan hilariously talks about silverback gorillas.
Well, we're so soft. We think it's okay to look at a wild animal in its eyes. That's how stupid we are.
me.
Hi. Hey,
challenge.
we're cool. We're cool, man. We're from National Geographic Society. We just come to make sure your baby's okay. Fucking crazy 800-pound silverback
What's wrong
bursting
with
through the
people?
trees. gets right in your face. He's got fangs and he only eats vegetables.
I know.
And the fangs
Shredded.
are only designed to fuck you up. And you couldn't even imagine what an 800-pound gorilla's strength is like, because you would think of it as like an 800-pound man, but it would really be more like a 3,000-pound.
Yeah.
Next, we've got another Theo Von moment where Theo Von talks about steroids and working out.
Dude, we used to, good, dude. We used to fucking go, I remember driving to the Taco Bell and fucking doing steroids in the car, bro. We used to fucking, you know what I'm saying, bro?
Taco Bell parking lot?
Dog, I do 50 mLs just to fucking put down a fucking Mexican pizza, son. Let's go.
You're ready to get jacked. So I'm climbing right out of the sauna. See all the ice in there? So it's me coming. I worked out, and then I went, and they usually do this. So look at this chunk of ice. See that shit? I usually do this right after cardio. So this is like a cardio session.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
You look like one of those turkeys when they tie it up and it gets all like kind of like lined out.
What?
You know what I'm talking about? When they put that rope around that the ham and it's got all the fucking...
Oh, my six-pack.
Yeah. Damn.
It's called working out, son.
Yeah, it is, bro. I didn't know what that end game could be like, baby. That's freaking wild, dude. Congratulations, man.
Just keep working out and you'll get there too.
Next, we have two funny moments featuring Joe Rogan on the Flagrant podcast, where he talks about his early days and also talks about Moose.
When did you know you were big enough that people could use your platform to manipulate the masses? Was there a moment where you're like, somebody hit me up and you're like, oh, fuck, I'm big enough that I need to start being watchful or wary?
I just it was like a slow burn. Over time, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't like right in the beginning, early days, I'd have anybody on. Oh, Holocaust isn't real? Come on. Tell me more. After a while, people started getting mad. And I was like, okay, I don't agree with them. Jesus Christ, I have to have people on that I only agree with. This is going to get boring. Yeah.
Hey, Moose, where are you from?
Don't talk to moose, by the way.
What?
Because they're the one animal that will kill you in the deer species.
What?
They'll chase you down and kill you.
But how would they kill
They're
me?
deer?
They'll stomp you to death. Moose they regularly stomp people to death. It's a normal thing. Most people avoid them at all costs, but if you fuck up and you're too close to a moose, they'll come for you. They're different. They're different than any other wild animal because they deal with wolves. So they're like real good at stomping. Real good at just stomping the fucking shit out of things. That's what they have to do. If you want to stay alive, if you're a moose, you gotta stomp the fucking shit out of everything near you. So if you're talking shit to a moose in a parking lot in Anchorage, Alaska, if you're talking shit to a moose in a parking lot in Anchorage, Alaska, you might get stomped to death.
Yeah.
That's real.
That's
that
not
happens.
Will Smith, bro. That's not a little slap. That's a stomp.
They stomp
It's a
you.
Mr. Miyagi right there.
They're 1,800 pounds when they're the giant bulls.
Yeah.
I might have made that up.
100% correct.
Check that.
With an episode featuring Theo Von, where Theo Von makes a comment about Monster energy drinks.
Also, I'm drinking like Monster energy drinks sometimes, which are like piss magnets.
Yeah.
They're delicious, but they make you want to pee.
Make you want to beat your wife, too, dude. I've seen a lot of dudes drinking Monster that they're going home to punch.
I don't know if the Monster is the cause of it. I think there's probably other factors.
Well, I'll say this. It's the beverage of choice of some of those gentlemen. I'll say that.
On an episode featuring Brendan Schwab, Brendan tells a hilarious story about Theo Von while he was in Australia.
He's in Australia?
He's on Australia on tour right now, and he goes, "Yeah." I mean, this is this morning. He goes, "Yeah, man, got a koala come to the hotel," and I went, "Oh shit, man, those things have chlamydia, so make sure you wash your hands." And he goes, "Shit, I have some things too. He better wash his hands." I was just like, all right, dude. All right, man. He's so stupid. He's so fucking...
He said he better wash his hands. Oh my God, that's funny.
But it's legit a koala's coming over to this fucking hotel.
That's so Theo.
On an episode featuring Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz discuss which dressing is better on wings, ranch or blue cheese.
Wings must be done with blue cheese?
Blue cheese, yeah, like the way they invented in Buffalo, New York. If you're gonna do something original, do it original. You're gonna show up with that ranch that smells like somebody's ass. You ever smell
They're saying
fucking
that
ranch?
ranch is starting to replace ketchup.
Yeah, that's
in a lot
good.
of
If you're a
ways.
fucking hillbilly and you want to taste the ass in your mouth all fucking day. I hate that fucking ranch shit. Don't put it close to me. Don't put it around me. It's either blue cheese with wings or go fuck your mother. That's the next shirt, all right, please. Fucking, you're gonna give me a fucking ranch.
On this episode featuring Brian Callen, Brian shares a hilarious story about one of his father's best friends.
My father's friend, he was sleeping. His wife said, "You have to go to the dentist." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Your breath is so out of control." And they've been married for 25 years. So he goes, "Jesus, all right." So check this out. So apparently he had an abscess, a sac of bacteria in the back of his mouth. Well, when they I guess took the tooth out of the filling out and they popped by accident the sac, the nurse threw up and the fucking dentist walked into the room at that moment and pulled his mask off and threw the fuck up as well. No! Yes. No way! It was a double vomit fest.
On this episode featuring Mike Tyson has a moment where he does a lot of good self-reflection.
Crazy picture. You in your underwear with a tiger on a chain. That is one of the.
That's the
that
champ
is
right there.
That's you at peak crazy.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah.
Tom, what was going through my mind? I don't know what made me think about. My friend said, "Mike, you can get some awesome animals," and I'm thinking, really? Are you serious?
And again, we have another podcast clip between Theo Von and Joe Rogan, where Theo Von tells a hilarious story about hide and seek on mushrooms.
Oh, I never told you the end of that.
Oh, sorry.
So no, I took that bag of mushrooms to that party,
Right.
and a bunch of people ate them who'd never had them before.
Uh-oh.
And then we played a game of hide and go seek, right? I was like,
Oh, no.
oh, dude.
You hide in another dimension.
I was like, I'll count. You guys go hide, right?
Oh no.
And I never went to fucking look for them. That was the end of that, bro. I never seen one dude, this boy Timothy, I never seen that dude again.
In this episode featuring Steve-O mentions how he rents out 4 apartments in the same building. When asked why he rents 4 of them, he said this.
No shoes and a fucking and I get they go through your property, you know. Then when they process you into jail, and so they pull out a bag of cocaine and they re-arrest me at the jail.
Oh my God.
So I'm in so I'm in there for like 3 days or something, and it's on the news, and the apartment building's fucking over me, even though I rented 4 apartments in the building.
Why did you rent 4?
Because one was a skate park. One was
In this episode featuring Andrew Scholes, they begin to talk about their first nuts, and Joe Rogan delivers one of the most Joe Rogan lines in history.
18-year-old.
Yo, so many women are like judging us on our first nuts.
Yeah,
It's like, what do you?
Listen, back in the day, you had to come quick because a leopard might eat you.
Why did I learn this excuse at 38? Babe, there's leopards around.
Built in.
That's true.
It's built into the human. You had to come quick.
Yet again, we have another Joe Rogan podcast clip featuring Theo Von, where Theo Von says that he's planned ahead for a plane crash.
Man, I think about that kind of stuff. Like if a plane crashed, I already know I'm planned ahead, dude. I'd eat a Vietnamese guy.
Why?
Because that's easy. It's a starter move. If you attack somebody bigger, if you eat somebody bigger in front of other people, it's going to alarm people. But you
got to eat a small person, so stature is important.
I think if you gum down a Viet, people aren't going to be that upset at you.
Well, the Vietnamese people are going to be super upset. What are you talking about?
No, they're
Somebody's
okay.
dad.
Yeah, they're more understanding of things, dude.
Is this a character you're playing?
No. But if you eat you eat a black lady and her family's there, they're going to be pissed.
So you think a Vietnamese person will let you slide?
I think that they'd be much more forgiving over a couple of day period.
But what is interesting is like Vietnam is one of the few places where Americans can go back to Vietnam and they don't seem to hold any grudge at all.
Exhibit A. Exhibit A, man, honestly.
And just because Theo Von has so many iconic moments on Joe Rogan, here's another clip.
Yeah, I would hate cleaning up probably human shit for some reason. But I remember...
More than dog shit?
Well, when I was a kid, they had a boy in our neighborhood named Mario, right? And he was, dude, he ended up dying, actually. He did some pills and drove into an embankment. But when I was young, he would shit in his yard, make me bury it. And that's how I was allowed to be friends with him.
How did he make you bury it?
He just asked me to do it, and I was afraid not to do it, I think.
He said, hey, yo, dude, you're not going to believe this, but I took a shit, and it's out my yard. I can't even bury it because I'll throw up. Can you do me a favor and go bury it?
Yeah. He was dark, man. He had a real dark vision. And he probably, honestly, dude.
And on this podcast, Joe Rogan and Theo Von tried smelling salts.
Wow.
Oh.
And that's a sealed bottle.
And we're live.
It's fully plastic sealed.
Oh, I'll do a couple of these bitches, son. I've been through some things, boy.
Okay, get a whiff.
You have to shake it, though. Huh?
I think you just take a whiff. Oh. They do that right before they lift. What? Are you okay? Yeah.
Before they lift what, bro?
Before they lift weights.
You're not supposed to.
Before they lift the fucking universe? Before they lift their future?
I have no idea.
Take a ride on that hitter. Boom!
Oh my God.
Oliveira goes down.
Holy shit.
Is that shocking?
Oh my God.
With episode 1491, where Bill Burr talks about masks.
All I do is I watch the news once every 2 weeks. I'm like, mask or no mask? Still mask? All right, mask. That's all I give a fuck about. I don't care.
But even they say you shouldn't wear a mask unless you're treating a coronavirus patient. The World Health Organization.
Yeah, but they didn't say that
literally
initially. They didn't say it initially.
No, they didn't.
They did, and then it gradually, and then wait, and then everybody wore the fucking masks. This is like rollerblading. Everybody fucking rollerbladed, and then there was that one fucking homophobic joke, and then everybody acted like they never did it. And then 100 million fucking rollerblades got thrown into the fucking ocean. We all wore masks, and then all of a sudden, people are fucking sitting there. Well, you don't have the body type for it, dude. Your fucking knuckles would scrape on the ground, even with that extra 2 inches.
On episode 1118, Theo Von talks about Joe Rogan's friend, Eddie Bravo.
Dude, I talked to your buddy Eddie Bravo, and that guy is a real...
He's out there.
He's like a deaf Jack Russell almost, you know?
A deaf Jack Russell?
Yeah, because once he gets going, you can't...
Oh, Jack Russell Terrier?
Yeah. You ever been around one of those dogs? You open the car, and then the next thing you know, they're at the... Yeah. They're like sick, yeah.
But well, how's he deaf?
Because you can't get him back. Like, once he goes, you can't... You know what I'm saying? You can't get him back in the car. Like, you're sitting there honking the horn. You can't... That guy's out there. You know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about, but I've never heard anybody make a description like that. A deaf Jack Russell Terrier.
On episode 1405, Joe Rogan and company tell a story about Joey Diaz pooping in the shower.
Joey told me one time that he was about shitting in the shower, and he was like, yeah, it was great. I did it all the time. I was like, you fucking... Shit in the shower? And he's like, yeah. He goes, and then he's like, if it's like a log, I'll just shit and then I just toss it to the toilet. And I was like, come on.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And then he said that.
How much practice does he have in doing that?
Well, I go,
he must have missed before.
Crumple piece of paper, you go for the can and you miss.
Oh, missing that.
Missing would be so bad.
He said that. I go, did you stop? That's so fucking revolting. Did you? He goes, he's like, I had to. I go, why? He goes, my wife saw me do it one time, and she said, no more of that.
My wife saw me do it.
Imagine walking in on someone with shit in their hand, like I can
throwing
explain.
shit.
Oh my God, it's hilarious,
dude. I have sometimes with my stomach. I told this to Tom a long time on our podcast. I took a shit in Japan once that was so bad. The guy in the stall next to me threw up.
And Joe, we were in Japan. I thought he was talking to me. He's like, "Ugh," and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. No Japanese, dude. And that's, by the way, that's happened twice. It happened once in Denver.
On episode 990, Joe Rogan and Jamie Foxx talk about memes.
How can you be Michael Jordan and kids run up to you and say, "You the crybaby face"? You cry man. They go to cry man.
Well, memes are like the best thing on the internet. It's one of the best things about the internet. It's people being able to make funny.
It's the best thing, but watch this though. Once it sticks, that's what I'm saying. Once it sticks,
once it sticks, it sticks.
Michael Jordan to somebody under the age of 18, he the crybaby face man. Hey man, they go to crybaby face. Hey man, and then you know how fans do it. Hey man, cry right quick, dog.
Yeah.
Let me get you crying.
It's so true.
Yeah.
On episode 803, Joey Diaz tells a hilarious story about someone sleeping through a fire.
In the middle of all this, it's 8 in the morning, and we all look around and go, "Oh my God, Emil's still in the house. Bonehead was still in the house on fire." Bro, they turn the fire off, they go in. He's still with his feet up, with his hands crossed.
Just heroin out of his mind.
Watching TV like nothing happened.
He slept through the fire?
Oh my God, everything. When they woke him up, he goes, "Are my fries ready?" This is how crazy this family was. Are my fries ready?
Are my
They're like,
fries
"Bonehead,
ready?"
we have 2 fucking battalions out there. We got half of 9/11 out there.
Oh my God.
And you're still fucking sleeping.
On episode 1225, Theo Vaughn forgets what season it is.
Dude, this shit is getting gay, bro, today. Sorry, I gotta fucking...
It's just very dick-oriented today. I wouldn't say it's gay.
Well, it's that time of year. It's spring. People are refreshed.
It's not spring. It's the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
It's freezing cold out. It's just January.
Whatever. You guys aren't open-minded. That's what I think, bro.
It doesn't get more winter than January.
Well, it's not even a Groundhog's Day yet.
Why not just say it's August?
Okay.
On episode number 466, Joe Rogan talks about his grandmother.
My grandmother like moans. Like she's hurt so bad. She can't move. She had an aneurysm 12 years ago. So she's just lying in bed like, "Ah."
So from the aneurysm on, she was in just pain all the time.
Done.
Jesus Christ.
She was done. From the aneurysm on. They gave her 72 hours to live. She lived for 12 years. Yeah. And it wasn't a good 12 years. It wasn't a good 12 years.
So your grandfather was getting zero action.
I don't know. He probably did whatever he wanted to. See? You can't even help yourself.
Hey, Mama.
This is exactly what I was saying earlier.
Hey, Mama, roll it over. Put that fucking gagoosh up in the air. Grandpa's coming in. You can hide the fucking cannolis, but you're not hiding that fucking gagoonga.
The gagoosh. Hey, she's got a big hairy gagoosh. That's it.
That fucking gagoosh could sing.
Oh, she got a big fucking juicy gagoosh.
It sings
with
like
a little
Sinatra.
mangadong at the end of it.
It's
You know what I'm saying?
got a mangadong at the end. That's when you know you're done, when you hit the gagagadong.
Oh, this broad. When I fucking do your shit inside of her, my brother.
I don't know if she's moaning because of the aneurysm or because I'm hitting the gagoosh.
Oh, it's awful.
On episode 892, Joe Rogan asks a very important would you rather.
Said to a lot of guys, like, if you had to choose between being blind or having your dick break, where your dick can never get it up again,
Oh, no question.
what would you say?
Give me the fucking stick and the dog. Give me the Stevie Wonder glasses.
On episode 635, Jim Norton tells a hilarious story about embarrassing his girlfriends.
And then it merged into Chip, who my girlfriend hated so much. And Chip became the fucking... Because Chip would embarrass people. I did that literally before I ever thought I'd do it on the radio. I would be out with girlfriends and embarrass them by doing that. Like I would just be making bad jokes in the cab, and my girlfriend, Jen, and even girlfriends before her would just go, "Just shut the fuck up. It's not funny." And it made me so happy And what this is what would drive Jen crazy. We'd be in like a really nice steakhouse, and the waiter would come over, and she would order like the salmon, and then Chip just goes, "How much is that?" and would ask the waiter, and she was like, "Do you know how humiliating it is that people think I fucked that guy? People think I'm fucking this guy."
The worst is if you're jerking off with a hat on, bro. You're going to hell, I think.
Fedora.
Yeah, that's the worst, bro. That's the most French thing you can do.
Jacking off with them straw Kentucky Derby hats.
Yeah, what's the worst hat to jack off?
The worst hat to jack
Probably
off.
a top hat because you have to balance yourself while you're jerking off. Yeah.
One of them fucking chimney sweep hats.
The best would be one of those Chinese hats, bro, because if you squat down low enough to the ground, you can almost hide under it and jerk off. You know? Those things would be dope, bro.
The most confusing would be like one of them Daniel Boone raccoon caps.
Yeah, but
you got that tail in your eye. You push it. You're blowing the tail's in the way. Just get the fuck out of my way with this tail. Ugh.
Joe Rogan and Elon Musk were having a conversation about Elon Musk's company, The Boring Company, where he sells a flamethrower. And when asked why he sells flamethrowers, he said this.
Does anybody tell you no? Does anybody go, Elon, maybe for yourself, but selling a flamethrower, the liabilities, all the people you're selling this device to, what kind of unhinged people are going to be buying a flamethrower in the first place? Do we really want to connect ourselves?
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Terrible. Shouldn't buy one. I said don't buy this flamethrower. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. That's what I said. But still, people bought it.
Yeah,
there's
they're not
nothing
gonna
I
listen.
can do to stop them.
If you
I
build
could
it,
not
they will
stop
come.
them. I said don't buy it. It's a bad idea.
How many did you make?
It's dangerous. It's wrong. Don't buy it. Still, people bought it. I just couldn't stop them.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1000, Joey Diaz tells a hilarious story of farting on a bus.
When I was a freshman, I played freshman ball, and we were playing Patterson East Side. And I hadn't taken a shit for like 10 days. I was backed up something. I took acid, something fucked my stomach up. And I didn't tell nobody. I don't know if I'm going to shit myself or fart, but let me just take a chance.
Good move.
And I blew this fart, Joe Rogan. That was so bad. Right? We were on a bus, and people started running, you know, the school buses? People started running to the windows, right? To swing down the bus windows. But here's what gets better. I farted again. And the teachers were going, "Oh my God, he's changing flavors." But the worst,
Joey Diaz recalls everybody on that bus was suffering because of the smell.
But the worst thing was the cheerleaders were crying. That's how bad it smelled. They were sitting in front of the bus going,
Wait a minute, he's changing flavor.
One of the teachers yelled out, "Oh my God, he's changing flavors." That's how bad these farts were.
On a podcast with Joe Rogan and Alex Jones, Alex Jones insists on Eddie Bravo to choke him out.
Hey, listen, in high school, we used to choke each other out. That's like a DMT. Go ahead and choke me out. On air.
No, please don't.
That would be
hilarious.
Please don't.
I'm not scared. Let's do it.
No, Eddie, don't.
Do it.
Please
Let's do
don't
it.
choke him unconscious.
Do it now. I'm
Please
not afraid.
don't.
Let's go.
He can't do it.
You know, you think I'm afraid of this? Let's do it.
No, I definitely don't think you're afraid of this, which is why I don't want him to do it.
You know
He was
what? Let's
telling
not be pussies. Choke me out.
You know what? Let me tell you a story first. Back when I used to work at the strip club.
You're the one.
Hold on.
I'm not afraid.
Alex, sit down, please.
Come on.
Please, Alex,
I know this can kick my ass.
we have to work together here. We have to work together. Come sit down.
Have you guys been?
I'm not gay, but Eddie's good looking.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Have a seat.
Hey,
and
hey,
have a
you
seat.
better choke me out.
Alex, please. Please have a
No,
seat.
we used to do it in high school.
I know you did. You told me. You grab each other and you fall down and hit your heads.
It only takes like 20 seconds.
What were you going to say about strip club?
On another Joe Rogan podcast with Theo Von shares a hilarious Christmas story.
And I was making like a nice smoothie, and I'm fucking coked up. I'm partying, you know, I'm living high on the hog. I thought I heard something outside, right? Which is kind of weird to even think of when you have a blender going, right? So I leave out of my apartment to go in the hallway, lock myself out, with the blender going. 2:30 in the morning, coked up out of my brain, right? Now I have to go to my landlord, dude, who lives right down the hall.
Oh, no.
And tell him, like, hey, man.
2:30 in the morning, I got locked out. And the blender's on, son.
Joe Rogan laughs throughout this whole story, just showing how good of a storyteller Theo Von is.
And I didn't know what to say. I told him that I was throwing a late Christmas party, dude. It was fucking into January.
How old were you at the time?
Huh? Oh, this is 2.5 years ago. So I was 35. Bro. So he comes back to my apartment, right? He's fucking pissed. He unlocks the door. There's nobody in there. I think we're all even.
On this episode with Joe Rogan and comedian Kevin Hart tells a hilarious story of an old guy falling on a hoverboard.
This old guy trying to hoverboard. He's like, he's got to be like 69, 70. And this man gets on this hoverboard and takes... If you saw Mike Tyson fall on a hoverboard, his fall was worse than Mike Tyson's. I've never seen somebody hit their head harder in my life. And I didn't laugh out of wanting to see this old man hurt himself. I laughed because it was stupid to try to get on this hoverboard in the first place. And when he got up, he tells the kids, why is it moving like that?
Kevin Hart recalls showing the video to his friends over and over again because of how funny it was.
I played this video for everybody because that shit made me laugh. Some people were watching and go, oh, no. Some people were watching and go, oh. And others would just die fucking laughing because everybody's humor is different.
Yeah.
Everybody's fucking humor is different.
In a conversation between Joe Rogan and comedian Andrew Schultz, Joe Rogan explains how he feels dumb when interviewing people like Elon Musk.
By a guest?
Yeah.
By their intellect, yeah. Like Elon Musk was intimidating.
Yeah.
Talking to him was because you realize what a chimp you are.
Did you feel that way?
Oh, yeah, I'm a fucking dummy, man.
But like...
I'm talking to this guy, I'm like, I'm a fucking chimp.
Here's a question. You just kind of laughed
like one. I'm like looking at him like, yeah. So I gotta go to Mars, huh? Cool. Want to smoke some weed?
That's what it felt like.
Somebody's got to. Joe Rogan has also gone viral many times because of his amazing animal impressions. The first one being a silverback gorilla.
Just gonna make sure your baby's okay. Fucking crazy 800-pound silverback bursting through the trees. Gets right in your face. He's got fangs and only eats.
He also has bear impressions.
Down chasing us. Boom!
Yeah.
Snap. The bear caught up to the moose and broke its back
with a slap.
Oh, shit.
Just bang! And the moose is fucked, slams against the. It's like,
oh yeah, down ballistic.
Next, let's take a look at some of the craziest conspiracy theories ever shared on the podcast. Take a look at the craziest conspiracy theories in Joe Rogan history, beginning with Joe Rogan's theory on time travel.
You know, that was the theory that Terrence McKenna had to the thing that's going to change the universe is that one day someone's going to invent a time machine, and that when they invent a time machine, all time ceases to become linear. So you think if you have a time machine, well, I'll just go back to the time where they were making the pyramids and I'll watch them do it. That's not what it works like. What he was saying, you can't travel where there are no roads. So once a road gets built, then you can travel. So once a time machine gets invented, then anyone from the invention of the time machine forward to forever can come back to that moment and can go to any point in time from that moment to the end of time. So all time ceases to be linear. So there's no like tomorrow will be Wednesday and the next day will be Thursday. No. It's everything happens everywhere all at once. So people can travel back and forth through time. You can never own anything because someone could just travel through time and take it away from you when you weren't looking. Like as time travel gets more and more sophisticated, you can go back and forth in time while you're talking to people.
If you don't like what you said, you could rewind and start all over again. If you're in an argument with your wife, you can go to the library and get information and come back and go, actually, Herodotus once said, and then bam, your wife thinks you're the smartest guy in the world. Like this, but there would be no normal life anymore. It would the world itself would be completely unrecognizable because time would mean nothing. You'd be able to travel back and forth through time.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1928, YouTuber and investigator Jimmy Corsetti shares his theory about the lost city of Atlantis.
There's a location in the Western Sahara Desert of Mauritania called the Rishat Structure. It's also commonly referred to as the Eye of the Sahara. It is a site that most people have never seen or heard of before, which is truly peculiar because it's so spectacular. It's a site that astronauts typically use to reference from space. It is a geological feature that is said to be volcanic in nature. And what's so spectacular about this is that it just so happens to match more than a dozen striking similarities to what Plato had described as the lost ancient capital city of Atlantis. Plato had described Atlantis as being the capital. Let me just mention that because it was an empire said to be made up of 10 kingdoms. And what I'm focusing on is the lost capital city, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 of water, 2 of land, which matches the Rishat structure. It also was said to have an opening to the sea at the south, and if you look at it from satellite imagery, you can clearly see that water had ran through it. And furthermore, it was said to have mountains to the north, and you just so happen to have mountains called the Atlas mountain chain, which Atlas was said to be the very first king of Atlantis. And what's interesting is that the very first known king of Mauritania, which is where the Rishat structure is located, is also their very first known king was also named Atlas. And though I'm not saying that that's the same individual, but what we do today is we pass down names, right? Like people like, oh, my dad's name's John, and so is my son. And so it's another striking similarity, but it goes further than that. Like there's geological similarities, such as the fact that Atlantis was said to be made up of red, black, and white color stone, which is another similarity you see at the Rishat structure. It was said to have an abundance of gold and that the outer walls were lined with it. And it turns out that Mauritania is loaded with gold, and not only that, the richest person ever known to exist in all of mankind is Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, which consisted partly of modern-day Mauritania. And he was so rich from gold that he would be richer than Elon Musk and like Bezos combined almost. Like many unfathomable amount of billions of dollars. So that's another similarity.
What year was this?
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1266, war reporter Ben Anderson talks about a conspiracy theory around white helmets.
Right now, there are parallel universes right now that exist on things that you would have thought everyone can accept as a basic fact.
Like what?
Syria.
Yeah.
The white helmets. There are some fairly serious people saying the white helmets are some kind of media front for Al Qaeda or Al Nusra.
Would you explain the white helmets for people?
So when there's a bombing and a building collapses, they go in and drag people out and get them medical attention as quick as possible.
And people think that they're somehow or another involved in it. They're a front.
Yeah, and the footage is faked in order to drum up sympathy for the rebel-held areas. I mean, I've heard serious people say that.
Serious people.
Yeah, not loons on Facebook. I've heard
like journalists or
yeah.
You wouldn't be able to really get I know people that have gone to Venezuela and they come back and they go, I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. I don't know who to believe. I don't understand it. Venezuela is a very strange one, and I get messages all the time. And I've had Abby Martin who goes over there and she has one take on it, and I have other people that I talk to that have a different take on it, and I do not know. I don't know who to believe, and I think you'd have to go over there and you'd have to spend a lot of time to try to figure this out, and it would have to be the entire focus of your life to really try to parse it out.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1339, Joe Rogan and Everlast go deep into parallel universe theories.
What about this? What if every time you went to sleep and you woke up, you passed into a nearby and very similar universe, but not quite the same? And depending upon your choices and how you live your life, it's how you wake up and what new one you pop into on the other side. And everyone's just a little bit different. The whole world changes just a little bit each time you make a decision, one way or another. Everything changes when you wake up. You think the world is static because it is when you're awake. You have no fucking idea what's happening while you're asleep. And when you wake up again, you have this foggy recollection of the past. And that's what you're going by. You're going by every morning waking up with a foggy recollection of the past. That's what you're doing. And you're assuming that nothing's changed and everything's static. And while you were asleep for 8 hours, nothing weird happened. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea. You're dreaming. You're having crazy fantasies and shit. Weird stuff is happening. You're fucking mermaids. You're flying through the air on a helicopter. You know, weird things happen when you're dreaming. What is all that about? Yeah. We don't even know. We have no idea what that is. That soup of possibilities that's fucking swirling around in between your ears while you're snoring up a storm. And then, boom, you wake up. Are you sure those memories are real? Are you sure that this isn't a whole completely new universe you're living in today?
Or assimilation.
On a Joe Rogan podcast from February 17th, 2019, Eddie Bravo shares his crazy conspiracy about space and one world government.
The only way to make a one world government work is to have the people embrace it. They have to want it because nobody wants it. So the trick is to make people want it, to embrace it. There's only one way. The only way. And they've known this forever. The Vatican knew this. The Pope wanted to rule the world. They all knew it, but they couldn't do it. They all knew it, but they knew one way, but there's no way how they're going to pull it off. What's the one way, man? The only way is if there was some extraterrestrial threat from up above us. That would be the only way to have everyone embrace the one world government. They all knew that for years.
But it didn't work so far.
That's the plan. They could never make it work. They didn't have the technology 500 years ago. The Vatican knew about it. They wanted it. And you go to the Vatican, you see paintings of like UFOs with aliens in them. And back when I used to believe in UFOs, but before I figured out that UFOs they want us to believe in UFOs. They're preparing us for a fake alien invasion. That's always been the plan. A one world government. The only way to do it is to get us to embrace it. And the only way to embrace it is from an alien attack. Ronald Reagan talked about it many times at the UN, CFR. He talked about it because he looked at all the leaders of the nation, of the world, and said, wouldn't it make our lives easier if we just had some kind of extraterrestrial threat?
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1284, Graham Hancock shares his theory about ancient civilizations.
Is above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers. And these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each. And there are hundreds of them. And these 70-ton granite beams, which to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. But then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there, because it couldn't have been a sand ramp. It would have collapsed under the weight of those stones. It had to be as massive as the pyramid itself. So this begins to seem like an absurd idea, the idea that is foisted on us by archaeology. Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse. Maybe that idea deserves further consideration.
Beginning with episode 1954, where Joe Rogan shares his theory on the afterlife.
The theory that many people have is that death opens up a chemical gateway in the mind. And that chemical gateway takes whatever the soul is, whatever consciousness is, and transports it into this new realm. It allows you, your conscious mind, to access this new realm, which is available to you upon death.
And so a lot of the ancient cultures that did ayahuasca and mushrooms, they would talk about this realm as being like a well of souls, that you encounter disembodied life forms, disembodied spirits. And this has been, it's been a staple of so many religions. There's so many religions that talk about the afterlife. I mean, I get that you would want to come up with something like that just because you wanted to have some sort of a reason to keep going. With a rational mind, when you're dealing with this existential angst of a temporary existence and one day you're just going to be worm food, what's the point of it all? Why don't I end it now?
Yeah.
It's too much. Life is to live is to suffer. No, there's something waiting for you when it's over.
On episode 1117, Joe Rogan is absolutely shocked by this crazy Hitler theory.
Because a lot of people are like, finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
They found Hitler, he died.
Yeah, I mean,
not really.
We don't know.
Right.
That's I mean, this isn't like Ancient Aliens. This is they declassified a bunch of documents. They both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents, and there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war, as was
Really?
Yeah, like millions of dollars. Like Hoover was like, no, send more FBI agents to South America, to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went. The Russians got the body and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever been able to independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. So they're like, oh, well, this isn't Hitler. So what you had in South America, both Chile and Argentina back-to-back had fascist regimes. You had Perón, who was part of the Nazi party starting all the way back into the mid-30s. He's the president of Argentina. So the Red Cross, there was about 3 different rat lines that guys were able to successfully get out of Europe into South America. And there's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands. And I'm not talking like little soldiers. I'm talking high-ranking Nazis. But what you got in South America were isolated German-only communities. You could go into Bariloche, Argentina, and I'd be like, "Buenos dias, amigos," and they're like, "Guten Morgen." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I meant good morning. Yeah, sorry, it's 2017, right? I thought we spoke Spanish here."
So in 2017, you were there and they were speaking German.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I don't look I might look more European than I do. So it's just them seeing me walking down the street and be like,
wow.
Yeah. And there's tons of communities. I mean, if you go to Colonia Dignidad, which is now called Villa Bavaria, it is only German.
Whoa.
In the center of Chile, in the mountains of Chile. There's no Spanish being spoken there. It is exclusively German.
And these are the descendants of Nazis.
Powerful Nazis.
Holy shit. Are there any legitimate eyewitness accounts of Hitler in South America?
Absolutely, potentially.
Whoa.
Yep, eyewitness accounts. I saw him get off a boat. I saw him meet here. And if it was just some person saying it, it's almost meaningless.
Right.
But if you look at the context of who this person is, the wealth that they have that they shouldn't have, can you explain how you got so rich in 2 generations? Okay, your grandpa got here from Germany in 1946. That's weird. And he's on a legitimate visa with an Argentinian passport. Also weird. And now he's a war refugee that's now worth millions of dollars. How does this work?
On episode 1897, Graham Hancock shares his theory that Antarctica on ancient maps is evidence for advanced civilizations.
One of the things I find most striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps, because we didn't discover it until 1820, and yet it's on maps drawn in the 1500s with great detail, which again were based on much older source maps that have now been lost to us. Astonishing thing is the so-called Pinkerton world map. I don't know if you can find it, Jamie. Drawn, I think, in 1813 or 1818, based on the latest exploration data at that time. And where Antarctica is, yeah, that one, keep going right. It just shows a hole where Antarctica is. Because it was an honest map. Nobody had found it by then. But if you go back to, for example, the Wolsey-Wooler world map drawn in 1530 or thereabouts, you find Antarctica is present. That map shows Antarctica exactly where it should be. And it shows it, there we go, Antarctica, at the tip of South America, just south of South Africa.
And what did they call it back then?
Well, they call it the Southern Land, and it's larger than it is today, but it was larger than it is today during the Ice Age. Antarctica was a much bigger. Now, what the fuck is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s, which we know was based on older source maps when nobody knew it existed in the 1500s? To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping, which ancient map makers found and used and incorporated into their maps. These maps can be very confusing because they were trying to mix exploration data from their own period with data from the older maps. But when you look at these maps in depth, they're very, very intriguing.
On episode 1928, Jimmy Corsetti shares his theory about Adam and Eve and the magnetic poles.
But the Adam and Eve story, the theory of that is that it happens in cycles of 6,500 years, and that it's a 90-degree flip, but 6 days later, or on the 7th day, it corrects itself.
The planet flips, not just
correct. It's a planet flip, 90-degree, and that because of it, the Earth essentially does a standstill. The sun will basically stay in the same spot, causing heating like we've never experienced, and that the wind and the waters continue with their momentum, because essentially the wind travels at approximately 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So the theory is that when that event happens, it's going to be cataclysmic. And here's the wild thing, is that in that document it says a continental-sized tsunami being 2 miles high. Well, I showed you the Emikusi volcano in Africa, in the Sahara, which is at 11,300 feet, that has salt as well as evidence of gastropods, sea life.
That's 2 miles high.
Yes. And I'm like, it would make a lot of sense. Like, if you look at the Bible and involving like Revelations, and it's saying like
6 days.
6 days, on the 7th day, God rested. In that document, it says 6 days, things start simmering down a bit, and by day 7, things are starting over new.
Next, let's take a look at some of the most heated arguments in the podcast's history, beginning with a conversation between Joe Rogan and Milo Yiannopoulos, where they talk about religion.
Everywhere that doesn't have a strong Christian heritage is a fucked up place with bad morals.
That's a ridiculous statement. Everywhere that doesn't have Judeo-Christian values is a fucked up place.
I think that, yes, I think it should be perfectly reasonable, respectable thing to say that our culture is better. I believe our culture is better than everywhere else in the world.
Culture of Christians.
I think
Christians that are running around doing ketamine and fucking each other.
European and American culture, which is based on Judeo-Christian values, is better than other cultures. I think it's uncontroversial to say so.
Joe Rogan then argues that religion has nothing to do with how good of a person someone is.
But what's based on Judeo-Christian values about being a good person?
Ultimately, our sense of right and wrong comes from the Bible.
What?
It does.
What comes from the Bible?
Ultimately, our sense of right and wrong comes from the Bible.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1920, featuring Dave Portnoy, Joe Rogan and Dave Portnoy get in an argument whether Tommy Fury is a real boxer or not.
Fury is not a real boxer.
Of course he's a real boxer.
No chance.
He's a professional boxer.
I saw Tommy Fury box. He is not a boxer.
Well, he's definitely a boxer.
Well, he puts on gloves.
He's definitely a boxer. But is he a boxer like his brother? No.
Well, clearly, but
Dave Portnoy then argues that we wouldn't even know of Tommy Fury if he didn't have the Fury last name.
Tommy Fury we would not know who Tommy Fury was if his last name wasn't Fury.
probably we wouldn't know as much about him.
I don't.
But he's still a good-looking guy. He's built great. He looks
Well,
like
those are- yeah.
looks the part.
Looks the part, no doubt.
Joe Rogan then shows a clip of Tommy Fury, and when Dave tries to argue with him, Joe Rogan shuts him down.
Here's Tommy Fury. You telling me this guy doesn't look like a boxer? You're out of your fucking mind.
Who's he fighting?
But I don't give a fuck, dude. Look at this. Look at this. He's fighting a professional boxer. The guy's fighting looks good. Dude, you're crazy if you don't think Tommy Fury's a
I don't
boxer. Look at that uppercut. Shut the fuck up, dude.
No.
Shut the fuck up. Watch this.
Find
Look,
the
just
Tommy
look at
Fury.
this.
Find
Dude.
the Tommy Fury fight on
Dude,
the
shut
Jake
the
Paul
fuck.
card.
Shut the fuck
this
up.
This guy
and-
cannot.
Please shut the fuck up and watch this.
On episode number 1308, Joe Rogan questions Eddie Bravo about believing that the Earth is flat.
But the people that are putting up satellites
I just go
are full
by.
of
I just
shit.
go by science. That's it. Scientific evidence, like real science. Like water is always level, right? We know that water is always level at
This is
100
a
miles
bad
in the ocean.
conversation if you don't understand how gravity works over a giant fucking sphere.
No. If we live on a ball that's 25,000
You don't
miles in
think we do?
circumference, if we do, then the water should be bending at
Eddie,
a certain
please
rate.
stop
right?
with this. This
Right?
is so crazy. You don't
The
even
water
know what that means.
I do know
Like,
what that
but you-
means.
but-
If it's a ball, the ocean should be curving at a certain rate. And they figured that out.
To tackle Eddie Bravo's argument on how the water should be bending at a certain rate, Joe pulls up an image.
Here's you can
That's
see
perspective.
This power.
It's perspective.
Yeah, but it's going around. Why is it going over the top, and why does it shrink at the end?
Everything. You look at the end of a street. Street lights do that.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Street lights do that.
But
That's called
a hill.
perspective.
Eddie, they do that on the hill, not on the ocean.
No, but you're looking at those electrical posts or whatever
Yeah.
you call them, and they go down. That's how street light. You go right in the middle of the street. The very next street light appears to be shorter than that one, and then the next one appears to be short. That's how you draw shit. But is it really that short? No, it's just your perspective. You're actually looking at an optical illusion. You're actually looking at. It looks like they're getting shorter and descending. It looks, but are they? No, they're not. Because if you went up,
but Eddie, they disappear.
Although the conversation was getting very heated in this episode, nothing compares to episode 917, where Joe Rogan and Steven Crowder talk about marijuana.
But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed issue.
Economics.
Well, no, traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that because that's nonsense.
No,
you
we
know,
wrote about it
drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've? First of all,
No, we wrote about what the sources
first of
are,
all,
original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high,
See,
because hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second. This is
you
because you just
interrupt
want-
way too much.
No, no,
You need to stop.
you talk in
hold on
paragraphs.
a second. No. I don't talk in
Go ahead.
paragraphs. I make full points. If people are high a lot and the same amount of fatalities exist, but the people that get checked once they get into these accidents happen to be high, it does not necessarily mean that marijuana caused those fatalities. It could be that you have an increased incidence of people doing marijuana and altercations that could not have been avoided.
It could be.
It could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
Well, what is
from
it?
pre and
You're
post.
talking about in Colorado.
In states where it's been decriminalized
Let's
or
go
legalized.
with Colorado. Pull
So,
it up, Jamie.
Hold on a second. You just said, let me make my point. Again, my point is I don't care about it.
Yeah, you do.
No, I really don't.
You don't care about
no, here's
people
the thing.
dying?
You
You
get
son of a
you get
bitch.
so touchy about it because someone says, you know what? If people want to smoke up, fine. I just don't really buy the arguments that everyone is in some big conspiracy to try and snuff it out.
No, there
and
are
the
some.
idea and the idea that the drug war will end and the idea that it's cures cancer. I just don't buy that, and
Well, it
people get
does.
so upset.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1125, featuring Candace Owens believes that climate change isn't real.
You don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you,
No, not even a little bit. Like,
not even a little bit?
no. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Like, I'm not saying like we need to trash the environment. Like, but do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change.
No.
2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
Well, what website is this?
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
Yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like, cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and I don't trust
Scientific
it.
American is not necessarily a random website. It's,
Yeah, I don't believe this like at all. Just so you know.
You don't believe it like at all?
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely
Well,
don't believe it.
I
Like,
believe
most of the
87%.
time, the consensus of scientists that are studying the data.
Right.
And so what they're doing is
But do you
studying.
remember all of the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show, like they were basically just getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up too. Like scientists who look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what you're searching for, looking for what you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched it.
This could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not like propaganda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this. Why have a belief as to whether or not global warming is real or not real?
Because
if
I
you
just
don't have
find
a
that
background
when
in
things
it, you don't
you're
understand
correct.
the science.
You are correct.
But why have a belief in it?
Right. So it's not a belief. It's not a belief in it. I don't believe in it.
On episode 1895, featuring Matt Walsh, Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh debate gay marriage.
I think of marriage is a certain thing, which is the context for procreation, for the building of the nuclear family.
What about people that get married that don't have kids? Are you opposed to that? What if they get married, they decide, you know what, we don't need kids, I'm gonna get fixed, you get your tubes tied, let's travel the world.
Well, what do you mean am I opposed to it? I mean, I think that every married couple should be open to life.
But what if they don't want to? Are you opposed to them being married? If marriage is only for procreation and to bond a family together, what about people that are deeply in love that never want to have children?
I don't think it's not only procreation, but that is one of the fundamental definitional aspects of it. Of course, there's more to marriage just than that.
And what about people that are infertile? They fall in love and they realize that they can't have babies. They don't really necessarily want to adopt. Is that okay for them to be married? Because then by definition, marriage falls into a completely different thing. Because then it's a bond of love. It's a union of love.
That doesn't change the nature of marriage, though. It's a little bit like I say that what's the definition of a woman? Well, a woman is someone who by her nature can conceive children in her womb and bear children. And then the response is always, well, what about women who are infertile? Does that destroy your definition of woman? And it doesn't, because it's still a woman's nature to bear children. Not every woman will.
And on Joe Rogan Experience 1255, featuring Alex Jones and Eddie Bravo, there are so many heated moments, so here they are.
You are someone that I could talk to about the flat earth conspiracy, and you believe in so many crazy things about the government. You don't believe in flat earth, but you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah,
right?
my issue is GPS is real. I know airline pilots that fly from California to places like Australia, and they've got another wing over to Hong Kong, and then they go to Moscow.
You can fly anywhere in the world if it was flat. If it's flat, you could go from east to west just like you could on a ball. You just don't understand what like a pizza is. You could just go anywhere. Like if you're on a flat
Here's
earth,
what I'm telling
if you're on a
you.
flat
Here's what I'm
earth,
telling
you
you.
could travel anywhere. Give me two cities.
Eddie,
you point at two cities and you just
Because we've
go
been
there.
lied to so much, I get what you
It has
question.
nothing to do with the ball.
I'm not that rich.
No, listen.
But I do have the money.
I'm
I
not
will
trying to
pay
convince
for a
you.
research
I'm not
ship.
trying to convince you, Alex. My point is, are you gonna go pee? No,
You're gonna
don't hurt him.
Listen,
Shut up. The plan.
You're going
I got the
to
plan.
the ice wall. Listen, he's the ambassador from Flat Earth. He's the ambassador.
I got
We're
the plan.
pushing him.
Ice wall.
Forget astronauts.
Go pee.
The guy that discovers
pee,
the flat
man.
Earth,
Go
the big
pee.
ice fields. Listen,
that guy's
I
gonna
can
be
get-
a
This is what we're gonna do, Alex. Alex, this is
I
what we're
will
gonna
get
do.
you
Can
a
you give me
50-ton
Can you
ship
give me 20 seconds
with an entire crew
Yes.
you're in command
Yes.
of.
No.
You are going to the edge of the flat Earth.
Totally, but it's not gonna be me. I'm gonna designate somebody. 'cause I'm too scared.
Next, let's take a look at some of the craziest stories ever shared on the podcast. Starting with episode number 1171, where Nick Yaris tells a story about being shot at by a police officer.
I escaped from prison in 1985 and ended up on the FBI's most wanted list.
How'd you get out?
I was being transported to court, and the sheriffs were being cool with me at first. They were talking about what was going on in Philly. They were two nice guys, like 68, 67. And we drove 5 hours from one of the hardest prisons in America called Huntington. And I left there after spending 2 years of my first 2 years in silence. So if you opened your mouth, they would come in and beat your head in. So I was so glad to get in the car because my mom was waiting in my lawyer's office because they were going to give me a review of my trial because they withheld so much evidence. So I was eager to go to court. We stopped at a gas station in Exton, Pennsylvania. And as I got out of the car, the officer driving pulled past the cubicle. Now we all got out of the car and ran over to the cubicle together. And I went in and started peeing. And the officer's holding the door for me. And my eyeglasses start fogging up. You go from the freezing cold to the warm to the cold, your eyeglasses. So all I know is I turn around and I come out, and he has the door like that, and I put my head down, go under his arm, and I turn left and go back to the car. The dude smoking a cigarette doesn't know that his partner went into the cubicle to piss. And as I'm running back to the dude, he pulls his pistol out and point blank shoots at me, Joe, like, pow! And as it went past my face, I was like, oh shit. I hit the ground. I ran, and he's following me with the gun. I could feel it like I was waiting for him to blast me, you know?
Why did he shoot at you?
Because he thought I overpowered his partner.
Oh.
He doesn't know. His testimony at trial was, I turn around, Nick's running at me, my partner's down or gone. I pulled my gun and he runs, and I wasn't going to let a death row prisoner run, so I tried to stop him. I shot.
On episode 1927, Forrest Gallant tells the story of a soldier from World War II.
From my understanding, during World War II, there was a crash in Guam, and from a dogfight. And this Japanese pilot or guy who was in the plane went and hid in a cave up on a mountain in Guam. And he spent until like 2002 living in this cave, thinking that World War II was continuing, and he thought he had a better life living in a cave and living off of the jungle, because Guam is like a hub for, I think, United or Delta, one of the major airlines. So all these planes are coming in and out every day, and he thinks it's World War II continuing.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's military bases and everything else in Guam. So
Was it really 2002?
Jamie would have to look, but it was very recent.
Like the 80s or something. I didn't know it was like that's he must have been old as fuck.
Yeah, he was like in his 70s or.
On episode number 1247, Andy Stump tells a story about being stuck while rock climbing.
Actually, the scariest I've ever been is you lived in Boulder, right?
Yeah.
There's a climb there called the Bastille Crack. It's in one of the national parks, and I was there with a buddy. It was just me and him and a world-class climber. And I was at the East Coast Command at the time, so budget was no option. I had the newest, shiniest stuff. I'm like taking plastic off of climbing gear to go climb this rock. This guy pulls up in a van with a Marlboro hanging out and, tennis shoes that have laces probably on one of the shoes and an old pair of pants. And he's climbed like every mountain ever. So it's me and my buddy. We're climbing our way up. I'm leading this pitch. So you switch. One guy will climb, he sets an anchor, the other person comes up and they pick all the protection out. So you can just switch, and then the other person leads the way on the next one. So I'm like halfway up this pitch and I can't move because I'm losing my shit. I'm like 15 feet above the last piece of protection that I just put in. I'm convinced that I feel my feet slipping off of the rock. I have my hand jammed into the rock, and then you make a fist to prevent it from falling out. And as my world is collapsing on me and I'm just sitting there, I've got full sewing machine leg, just sitting there, just shaking. I hear a voice just over my shoulder. He's like, hey man, just put the piece of pro right there. And I look over and this professional climber is right next to me with no rope in his fucking tennis shoes, smoking a cigarette, which is what he was using to point to where I should have placed the next piece of protection. Cool, calm, and collected. And I almost fell off the rock because he scared me so bad. I was so freaked out at what he was doing that I almost fell. I'm like, you need to get away from me immediately. He's like, yeah, no problem. And just scurried up the rock in tennis shoes.
On episode number 1947, featuring Chris DiStefano, Chris tells the story of serial killer Larry Hall.
It's a show on Apple TV. It was called Blackbird. It just came out last year. It's about a real story about a guy who, what his tactic would be is he murdered a lot of people, but he would say to the police, oh, I murdered that girl in that county. I'm confessing to it. But then they would go through the research and be like, no, you couldn't have possibly. But he would cop to it, and then the cops would be like, he did that like 5 times. They'd be like, every county he was investigating, they'd be like, that's what he does. He confesses to murders. He's a bullshitter. But he really was killing people. He was confessing to false ones so he could get away with the real ones.
Holy
wild. But basically the premise of it's based on a true story. This guy, the hottie with the body, he gets convicted 10 years in prison for gun charges. I think he's a guy out of Massachusetts. So, and he was a good con man, right? This is all real. Good con man, could, gift a gab, whatever. So the FBI wants to pin the guy with the mutton chops, Hauser. They want to pin, Larry Hall is his name in real life. They want to pin murders on him. They know that they've kind of caught up to his game now. They know that he lies about murders here to commit murders here. They know it, but they got to convict. They got to get him to confess to one of these murders because they found the girl's body because he was killing kids, like 14-year-old girls. So they say to this kid, to the jacked guy, they say, look, you got the gift of gab. You got 10 years in federal prison, okay? You're 3 months into your sentence. We're gonna transfer you to this maximum security prison where Larry Hall is. If you can get him to confess to the murder of this girl that we have evidence on, and you can get that, your sentence is commuted immediately and you're out of prison. That's all you gotta do. But he was in a minimum security prison, so he would be able to either coast through 10 years or take a chance and go to the prison with murderers, rapists, and potentially be murdered in the shower stall. But if he can get this guy gift of gab and get him to confess, then he'll get out.
Holy shit.
And that's what the show's about.
On episode number 1240, featuring Forrest Gallant, Forrest tells a crazy story of getting a blessing from a shaman in the jungle.
Okay, so I'm not like a big drug guy by any means, but I think you'll love this story. On this Amazon trip I told you about, we land in this airstrip, in this plane, we get into this village, and I'm like, cool, boats have made it here. It took the boats 5 days. We're gonna head upriver, right? And our translator's like, you can't do that yet. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we've spent months planning this. He's like, you have to have the shaman's blessing to go upriver. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, come to the Maloka, which is the spiritual house. So we go to the spiritual house, we sit around, we talk and we talk and we talk. And it's like hours of not like asking him to go, but just like almost like idle conversation where he's almost like interviewing us. Like, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you from? And he doesn't really understand any of this, right? He's living in this community. Long story short, he goes, okay, you can go, but you have to take this blessing. And we're like, sure, well, whatever you need for us to go. So he pulls out this snail shell. I can show you a picture of it. It's a snail shell with a monkey bone in the top and a tube worm to close it. And in this snail shell is this green powder. And he's like, this is what you need for the blessing. So he goes around the circle, and through a monkey bone pipe, he blows this green stuff in your nose.
Is that called a kuhe?
Not by that
called?
word that we heard. I couldn't tell. The name of the pipe?
No, the stuff they blow up your nose. Is it DMT?
It's coca leaf.
Oh,
mixed with a bunch of a root and tobacco, I believe, like all together. And anyway, so he goes, there's 5 of us in my crew. He goes around the circle and he hits 3 guys and they all go, whoa, my brain feels like I've got chlorine on the head, whatever.
He blows it into your nose.
Yeah, so he gets really close. He's got this long tubular monkey bone pipe and he goes, and it just blows it up into your nose and hits 3 of my guys. And I'm watching a little bit nervous because I'm very standoffish on drugs. I know things affect me very strangely. Anyway, hits 3 of my guys. They go, woof, eyes watering. And they're like, wow, it's actually a great feeling. Gets to my turn in the nose. All of a sudden, I feel like I've got acid on my brain, like chlorine in my head. I break into this sweat. My eyes explode and I'm wobbling like this. And 30 seconds later, I'm just curled over in the fetal position, just projectile vomiting. Cannot hold it together. And Lorenzo, the tribal shaman, goes, good. And we're like, why is this good? And he's like, he had a bad spirit in him. If he had gone up the river, he would have been killed. He's just got the bad spirit out. This is why I had to bless you. Now you can go.
Episode number 1171, where a man tells his story of being wrongfully sentenced to life in prison.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Harris, and I was convicted and sentenced to die for a rape and murder I didn't commit at the age of 21. In 1981, a woman named Mrs. Craig was murdered in Delaware. I had never met the woman. I was in prison on unrelated charges, and I stupidly made up a story to try and get out of those charges. The police soon realized that I was a liar, and they fabricated the charges around me then. So it's ironic that in a few days you're going to Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, and that's where the murder happened, really, basically. And Linda Mae Craig was leaving her job at 4:05 p.m. on December 15th, 1981. She's going home. She gets abducted. I don't know any of this, but I tried in desperation to get out of a lie that this officer put on me. I got pulled over in a stolen car. The cop beats me up. He puts charges on me. I'm facing life imprisonment, and I'm a junkie. All of my life, I was destroyed by what happened to me at the age of 7. I had my head beaten in by a man with a rock in his hand after he sexually assaulted me, and I did all the stupid things that people can do in the aftermath. I kept it a secret, and I let it foster all the anger in me. I became very aggressive as a child, and I ended up in trouble all the time. And when I was in prison on these unrelated predicate charges to the murder, I stupidly fell into that mindset of desperation of trying to get out of it. So the police put a prisoner in the cell next to me. He said I confessed to him. I was given a 3-day trial. I was sentenced to death and put on death row. And then, stupidly, I escaped from prison in 1985 and ended up on the FBI's most wanted list.
On episode number 1971, featuring Howie Mandel, Howie tells a story of how him and his wife encountered a UFO.
I've seen a UFO.
But have you really?
Yeah.
What'd you see?
I saw, and I was with my wife, and it was right there. I was driving. I was in Toronto. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I was in my 20s, and we were driving down a country road, and I thought, oh my God, there's a giant accident way up ahead, because I saw this line of like a half a mile wide of all these flashing lights. So I thought it was like a lineup of ambulances or, first responders or whatever. And as I got closer and closer, that whole line of lights, quicker than I can fathom, just shot into the sky and disappeared. And I turned to my wife and I go, I saw something. Did you see something? She goes, the lights? And I go, yeah. And we've never seen anything since. We went, this is way before the internet, but we called the airport. We called the military. Has there been any reports? We didn't see anything on the news, but we both saw it.
What could you describe the lights?
A straight line of lights that looked like they were probably, a quarter of a mile wide, like this was a giant line of lights. So I thought there was all cars lined up, on a road. There was no street lights or anything. It was when I realized what it was probably about 30 or 40 feet above the road. When I think about where I first saw the lights, they couldn't be on top of a car because there's no car that stands that high, or trucks or a train. And then the point was that how fast that I saw, how quickly I saw this line of lights just shoot into the atmosphere and disappear. Like, I've never seen anything move at that velocity.
How far away was it when it shot away?
Because it was night, it could have been 10 miles, it could have been 1 mile. I don't know how big it was because I didn't actually see the object. I saw a line of lights. Right. So I don't know how far I was from the lights. But I do know, if you called my wife right now, she would describe the exact same thing. She was sitting in the car with me. We're both not, UFO enthusiasts. I don't know that I didn't have a non-belief. I just never thought of it. We saw this weird thing that has never been explained to us. I think it would be ignorant of me to not think that this was something beyond our scope as far as what we have on Earth.
On episode 1906, featuring David Goggins, Goggins tells a heartbreaking story about his mother.
I was so aware of so much shit. I was so bright in that way. And to see your mom go through that shit as that young kid, and I was going through it and she was going through it right beside me. Like, when I got my ass beat, she got her ass beat. When you see your mom going through that kind of shit, and then I'm coming to her defense at 7 or 8 years old and she's getting her fucking ass beat by a 220-pound man, and I'm fucking some little kid, you know what kind of courage it takes to muster that up to go help her out and to see her fucked up like that? She got married a few times because she was looking for something that my dad stripped from her. When my mom left my dad, she went to Wilmouth and he got murdered. I talk about that and Can't Hurt Me. He got murdered. So that took her all the way over the edge. I mean, he got shot fucking 6 times. And the last shot, this motherfucker got right up on his head and made sure he was dead. Like, forehead shot. And so she didn't cry. She's lost. It was over. A whole nother person became. And so I'm fucking now like 12, 13, 14, whatever the fuck I was. I'm watching this woman every day. Front row seat, just watching her just go through life fucked up. And then I'm about to go in the military, into the Air Force. And like 2 years out, man, I'm like a sophomore in high school. Phone's ringing every night. She'd tell me, don't get on the phone. 15-minute calls, hang up. 15-minute call, hang up. 15-minute call, hang up. What the fuck is going on? And I didn't ask shit, but I knew something was fucked because like 3-4 hours a night, 15-minute hang up, because he was in prison. This guy was in prison, so he only had 15 minutes on the phone. He had to put more money in it.
How did you meet him?
She saw people needed help, so she started teaching in the prison. So she had a full-time job at DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana, and then she started teaching in a prison, and she met this prisoner. This prisoner obviously, I don't know, slid her a note or some bullshit like that, and she was looking for anything. She was looking for anybody that loved her because my dad beat the fucking life out of her. Phone was ringing every night. She didn't tell me about it, because how you could tell your son, hey, David, I'm in love with the prisoner.
On episode number 1943, former SWAT sniper Joel Turner tells the story of his most intense hostage situation.
Got a SWAT call out of a hostage rescue. There was an unarmed, barricaded subject with a hostage. I get there and it was weird because on the brief, I walked up to the house and the SWAT commander briefed me at the head of the garage there, and it was light colored concrete. You know, we didn't have a bunch of lights on because the operation is active in that house right there, but the room was in kind of the back of the house. And I remember he's talking to me, telling me the situation, and I'm looking on the ground and I'm like, what is all that stuff on the ground, right? So I turn my flashlight on and it's blood. There's blood all over the place on the walkway down from the garage. I'm like, what is up with that? And he's like, well, this guy stabbed his cousin and then took his own daughter hostage. There was another officer that had basically his face planted against the window so that he could just barely see through this sliver because it was on the same wall. And he wasn't shooting, and I'm like, why are you not shooting? And so we actually ended up having to remove him off the ladder because I don't know what he was thinking. He wasn't hearing us. We were giving him commands to get off the ladder so I could get up there and evaluate the situation. I get up on this ladder and I put my face against the wall, and I can just see through the sliver. I can see him sitting, and I can see her sitting in his lap basically, and he's got his arm around her. So I'm like, I don't have the right tool, so I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to shoot my handgun. I always preach, handguns suck for killing stuff, right? There's 6 guys standing at the window that have the right tool, right? Because they all have their assault rifle. The first guy, and it just happened to be the guy that we pulled off the ladder, I'm like, give me your rifle. He's like, what? Go give me your rifle. So we swap rifles, push the rifle in the window, and I come around the corner, and I look, and the little girl's looking right at me, right? Because all the broken glass. So she's looking right at me, and I bring the reticle up, and it's full pop brightness, right? I can't see anything. And now I gotta work on the buttons on this sight. Well, this isn't my rifle, right? So now I gotta find the button that dims the red dot. I go back up to the window, glass breaks again, pop, pop, pop underneath my feet. I come around the corner.
Does this guy know you're there?
I don't know, because he was, who knows what kind of mental state he was in, and I was trying not to be that's why I didn't turn on any lights or anything. So I come around the corner again, and I look in there, I'm like, okay, I got the right brightness, but it's too close, right? Like her head was like an inch, because what I'm looking at is this. So like this is the back of her head, I'm looking at his eyeball. Oh. So I got like an inch. I'm like, nah, it's too close. And I'm looking, and she's of course looking at me, and it's close. I'm like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. So I'm waiting, and then he moves his head back. Right? I'm like, okay, 2.5 inches of mechanical offset, but his face is all covered in hair, like this giant mop of hair. So I couldn't see the geography of his face at all. Like I want to put it in his eyeball, but can't see it, right? So I'm just going by the curvature of his forehead. I know I got to aim 2.5 inches over that. So I put it up there, safety's off, fingers on the trigger. It's a 2-stage trigger, so I took the first stage out. Here I go. I remember saying that. So I put it up 2.5 inches over where I wanted to hit. Safety's off. Here I go. And he moves his head back, right? Bunk. And he pops it back against the back of her head. So he moves his head back again. Now I've got better, it's faster for me to aim where I need to aim. So I put it where I need to. Stages out. Here I go. And the shot broke, and the rest is history.
My mom had a friend, right? Grew up in Utah. Maybe she's 18, 19 years old, whatever year, 70s, 80s, whatever. Goes on a date with a guy, right? Normal date, just met him, I think at the supermarket. Goes on a date with this guy, and she's at the table with him, and she feels very like a ominous feeling looking at this man. She's like, I'm looking at him, and I can see like there's nothing behind his eyes. Like there's just something that I don't like about this guy. So to the point where she has never done this, she was only 18, but since this has never done this, she went to a payphone at the restaurant, called her brother, and was like, can you please come pick me up like immediately? And stayed in the bathroom until her brother was outside. And went in the car and left. And she was like, I'm just creeped out by this guy. I can't explain it. I'm creeped out. All this energy, I'm creeped out. Now, this man had picked her up from her house. So the brother had a paper route. He's leaving the next morning at 5 a.m., sees some ruffling in the bushes, okay? Crazy, right? Like whatever, sees a guy running out of the bushes, says, holy shit, whatever, runs back in the house, tells his mom and dad, sister wakes up, says he was wearing like a beige jacket. She's like, that's the guy I was on a date with. Like that, he was like waiting. He must have been like waiting for me, right? Whatever. Goes on, life goes on. What a psycho, lunatic boyfriend. 3 years later, Ted Bundy on the news. Face she was on a date with Ted Bundy before he had committed any murders, or he had committed murders but had not been famous for it yet, had not been convicted of it yet. She said when he saw him, she literally almost fell out of her chair because she was like, that look. She said that Ted Bundy, about, you know, how, you know, everyone says he's so handsome, whatever. She said he would get a look over him when he was preying on a victim, which felt she was being preyed on, that she doesn't even look. He's like, he does not look like that. His face configures and contorts to something that looks so sinister that she literally was like, get me away from him now.
On episode number 1240, Forrest Galanti tells a story about a kid in a village who got attacked by a crocodile.
I was in Myanmar late last year, and we're down there filming this thing, and this kid, like 22-year-old crab fisherman, gets bitten by a crocodile.
Oh.
Croc grabs him by the arm, grabs him by the thigh, and death rolls. So it breaks the arm in like, I don't know, 15 places, compound fracture, the real deal. I can show you pictures of it, it'll blow your mind. And we hear about this, and we're minutes away. It's kind of one of the similar situations where we're the first Westerners to be there in a long time. We go bombing over at high speed, and we get there, and the mom is like off mourning the death of her child, but her child is sitting there still alive. Like, they have written him off. And mom is literally mourning the death of her child, and he's lying there conscious, but like in total shock. Fortunately, just because of the situation, we had a speedboat, everything else. We bandaged him up, you know, tried to keep his arm stable and his leg stable, put him in our speedboat, and it was 6 hours by speedboat to a village that had to a hospital, really. And so he got there and his life was saved. But we asked the people in the village, what were you going to do? And they're like, there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
So he was just going to bleed out or go septic, and that was the end of it.
Ooh, what a fucking rough way to go.
Right?
Ooh. How did he get away from the crocodile?
I don't know. I think he was just hitting it or hammering on it. He was crab fishing in the water, and it came up and grabbed him, rolled a few times, and at some point he escaped. How he even got back in the boat and made it back to the village, I have no idea, because his leg was shattered, his arm was shattered. It was brutal. And it was a canoe, you know, it wasn't like he had a little motor or a wheel to drive. He canoed back.
And on episode number 1141, featuring Theo Vaughn, Theo tells a hilarious story about burying his friend's poop.
Yeah, I would hate cleaning up probably human shit for some reason. But I remember...
More than dog shit?
Well, when I was a kid, they had a boy in our neighborhood named Mario, right? And he was, dude, he ended up dying, actually. He did some pills and drove into an embankment. But when I was young, he would shit in his yard, make me bury it. And that's how I was allowed to be friends with him.
How did he make you bury it?
He just asked me to do it, and I was afraid not to do it, I think.
He said, hey, yo, dude, you're not going to believe this, but I took a shit, and it's out my yard. I can't even bury it because I'll throw up. Can you do me a favor and go bury it?
Yeah. He was dark, man. He had a real dark vision. And he would, I mean, he probably, honestly, dude, he probably shit 200, 300 times and I buried it.
No.
I swear to God.
Come on.
I swear to God. I swear to God, dude. And he,
how'd you not run out of places to make new holes? Did you think you ever dug up old shit to put in new shit?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, man. We basically had like the only setup I had, and I didn't even have a strong system. The only setup I had was like one of those plastic, beach.
Oh,
like
no.
a beach setup. Dude, I'm talking, I was 7.
So, wait a minute. This 7-year-old was doing this? How old was he?
He was 8 or 9.
Oh, he's tricking you by being older.
And lastly, let's take a look at some of the most emotional moments in the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, beginning with episode 1665, featuring Carol Hooven.
There's one who's really interesting. Her name is Rose Namajunas. And she's an intensely, sweet person. She's super emotional. There was a video of me interviewing her after she just re-won her title, and I was talking about her mindset. Find that on my Instagram, because I was talking to her after she won the title. It was this amazing thing. She knocked out this girl, Zhang Wei Li, who's this monster. She's terrifying. She's this physical specimen, and she knocked her out with a head kick in the first round. It was crazy. They give her the title, and then I talk to her about it. And when I'm talking to her, she's emotional, she's crying, and I cried. I totally cried. This is the first time I ever cried. During an interview, the first time.
But God did it, man. I really just had to have faith in him, and that's what got me through.
You were so focused. Before the fight started, you were standing over there and asked Bruce
buffer was saying your name. You were saying to yourself, I'm the best. I'm the best.
I am the best.
When she won the title the first time, when I was interviewing her, one of the things she was saying is just, we have to be better people. She had this message while I was interviewing her in the cage after winning a fight. And she's like, we got to be nicer to each other. That was her message. It's about transcending whatever you think you are and becoming something better. That's what it's about.
Next, on episode 1906, David Goggins shares a heartbreaking story.
I had this fucking kid, man, who fucking literally, the reason I talk about haters so much is this little boy, his parents reached out to me, and he was getting so much hate at school. And we get so many emails, I can't check them all. But I get to them, but later on, much like 2 or 3 months later. So this guy wrote us, and this kid was having a hard time with bullies. And when I got to his email, called his family up, said, hey, what's going on? You know, it's David Goggins. They were all happy to hear it. He had himself. So, like, in the back of my fucking mind, and what hurt me the most was when I read the fucking email. And, shit. I gotta get my shit together. I wasn't gonna bring this shit up. Yeah, I read the email, and they said you can help our son. You know, our son really admires you, and that's why I'm very vocal for a lot of reasons, but I have to be strong because I know a lot of people aren't. So, you know, that's why I don't cower from shit.
On episode 1910, Mark Lyda gets emotional while talking about his mother.
Like the way my mom loved me. She passed away a couple years ago, but give me a second. Like, I could have been gay, I could have been in jail, I could have been flunking out of school, could have been mean to her, I could have been anything. And I know that she would have loved me the exact same way.
Yeah.
And because she did,
you're the person you are.
I wanted to make her proud.
Yeah.
I still do. I think this project is just an homage to her.
Well, you're very fortunate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that had a mom like mine. And my dad was great, too. Not as great, but my dad was really great. My dad came from absolute shit.
On episode number 883, Joe Rogan gets emotional while telling the story of putting his dog to sleep.
So how does it manifest again?
It's just some horrible neurological disease that dogs get. And if they don't get the right shots when they're young, they can get this, and there's a bunch of different horrible reactions, and it's fatal. So I had to take him to the vet, and the vet was like, there's really nothing we could do with him. He was having seizures all night. I mean, all night. It was awful. And he was like, he's going to die any hour now. You know, we're going to have to put him down. So he puts him down, and he comes out in the hallway. I mean, I held the dog. I placed him down. I gave him a kiss. I said goodbye. And he put the needle in the dog and put the dog to sleep. Then we both went outside, man. He was just crying, just weeping. You know,
That's the guy who's good at the job right there.
He just loved.
He loved
animals, man. He had a ton of animals, man. He had cats and dogs and all kinds of shit, and he was killed by a drunk driver.
The vet was?
Yeah.
On episode number 1518, David Chow breaks down while talking about his friend who passed away.
You killed someone. That person happened to be you, but you couldn't even show up for yourself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting
it's
real.
Okay, man. Listen, I get it. You love the guy. I loved him too. It's I've known many people that have themselves now. It's a very sad thing.
That
you can't you can never fix. That sadness is always going to be a part of you. You're always going to think, maybe I could have gotten to him. Maybe I could have talked to him. Maybe if I was there.
On episode number 1140, Joey Diaz tells a very emotional story about going through tough times.
The point of that fucking story I told you, of being on top of that hill at 17 and being homeless, is because I had a lot of chances to ice myself, Joe. I had a lot of chances to ice myself. Thinking of getting out of fucking prison and thinking of getting out on bail. When I got out on bail, I had a lot of fucking doubts, my friend. Thinking of getting out on bail and knowing you're gonna look at 48 fucking years and you're a fucking loser as it is. Think of all those opportunities. I used to break into a friend's house to sleep in his house at night. I slept in a rocket ship for a month outside at a park. You ever go to a park and see those rocket ships and your kids play on them? I still remember going up to the 3rd floor of the rocket ship, finishing off my coke and jerking off on the 3rd floor at 5 in the morning outside in a fucking park with leaves around me and shit. There was a lot of times I had that I wanted to do.
That visual is amazing.
You have no fucking idea. I would go up to the 3rd floor with a bottle of fucking Smirnoff Silver vodka, a bag, a hooded sweatshirt, gloves with a missing finger, so I could fucking touch the rock and put them in my nose and shit. You know, now that's all funny. That's all funny on the way up the stairs and shit. But when you come down and you're in that rocket ship, and it's 5 in the morning and it's 22 below zero. And you're thinking to yourself, fucking God took away my mother, God did this, this is all God's fault. Because this is the same God that I was raised to believe that was going to help me is doing all this. A lot of times I wanted to fucking do a swan dive, but I didn't. You know, it's so fucking weird. I was in those positions for a long time, Joe.
Yeah.
Now I gotta look at you and go, Jesus Christ, look at Tina Turner's son killed himself yesterday. It wasn't Ike's son, though. I thought it was Ike's son with her. You know, this trend of fucking people icing themselves. That scares me. That concerns me.